And welcome into today's Roundtable. And of course, you've been following the news. You know, there's trouble at the border, the Texas border with Mexico, in terms of more inspections being placed there as well. And that's kind of slowing things down in terms of more cargo being asked to stop and basically half the capacity moving through with more resources being donated towards migrant and immigration concerns there as well. Two people on here to join us in this discussion. We've got Noy Mahoney, our Borderlands writer, coming to us on the phone from San Antonio, Texas. And also coming to us is Olga Salinas, the Senior Vice President for Business Development at Redwood, Mexico. And I want to thank you both for joining us here for our roundtable. Noy, a scale of 1 to 10 right now, we've talked a little bit about this before, but scale of 1 to 10 in terms of what you're seeing at the border right now, how bad is it for trade across the U.S.-Mexico border?
Right now, I would qualify it as a 9.5 to 10. It's a pretty bad situation going on all along the U.S.-Mexico border in terms of cross-border trade.
Olga, what are you seeing from your situation in terms of how things are being handled and obviously the slowdown that's being created by the backlog?
Probably get worse, but I do concur that it is probably at a 10 right now. It's not only now a social issue, but also with trade, it's becoming a very, very tough situation. The problem is real.
Definitely there as well. Noy, Texas has obviously taken some heat over the fact that they instituted these new inspections that have slowed things down considerably. They have a Republican governor and Greg Abbott, a Republican-led House and Senate. In terms of what kind of pressure are they getting from U.S. and Mexico officials to try and alleviate the stress, take away the inspections? And also, do they have to make a choice here in terms of kind of lightening the load as well as the personnel that's also required for the immigration issues that they're seeing there as well?
Yeah, as you mentioned, the Texas Department of Public Safety, which is a state agency, began implementing what they call additional enhanced safety inspections on trucks coming north from Mexico. And they've done this at ports in Eagle Pass, Del Rio, Marcelina, Serna, which is near El Paso, as well as some of the bridges in El Paso. And in addition to the issue of migrants causing slowdowns at the border, these Texas DPS inspections have also had a really negative effect on cross-border trucks. And as far as I know, they're still ongoing, and these DPS inspections are still ongoing in El Paso, Del Rio, and Marcelina, Serna. And trade officials in Texas told me that it's these DPS inspections that are really hurting trade. They said they could deal with the reassignment of, customs agents, who are being assigned to migrant duty, but it's these additional DPS inspections that are really hurting a lot of cross-border trucks trying to get in from Mexico.
Olga, as you look at it from your situation, what are your major concerns? Obviously, major backlog there is one thing, but are there solutions out there, or is this something we're just going to have to live with until restrictions are lifted to some degree?
Well, definitely there got to be a solution as soon as possible, because there's a lot of money at stake, right? Not for freight not crossing the border. We have a lot of shippers looking at diverting freight out of the El Paso area into other bridges like Santa Teresa, or even some going all the way down into Laredo, adding a lot of cost into their landed cost of their product to be able to cross the border faster. I mean, the volumes are down probably to 50% of the daily crossings are getting stranded at the Mexican border, at the Mexico side. And besides looking for other crossing points, they're also looking at potentially either stopping production, which could result in breach of contracts or plant shutdowns in the U.S. potentially. But stopping production, some of them do not have the luxury to stop production, so production needs to continue. Now they're looking at warehouses on the Mexico side to be able to store some of this freight until there is a solution. Truly, there's a lot of agents that are being deployed into to support Border Patrol for the immigration issues, but there's got to be some resolution to be able to speed up even extended hours of operation at some of these bridges have not been able to alleviate the problem.
Let me follow up there on one thing, because it's some business being diverted to Laredo, which is interesting in trying to move things east. Any idea if things maybe try to move west towards New Mexico, Arizona, California, since obviously the inspections are a Texas issue?
Yeah, well, it all depends where the freight is going at the end of the day in the U.S. But I mean, the natural port of entry for Juarez, for example, is El Paso. But a lot of that flows east, right? So that's what is being diverted into Laredo in some cases by some shippers. Some others are going into Santa Teresa, as I mentioned, which is New Mexico, close to El Paso. But those bridges that are so close to El Paso are already getting extremely backlogged as well.
Noe, coming back to you here, one of the things that we talked about when we brought this issue up before is that this obviously hurts produce coming across the border, because obviously the more it stays in the truck, the more opportunity it has to possibly spoil. Looking at other avenues, as mentioned, different ports, different bridges, have you heard of any kind of situations where people may going to rail? Of course, CPKC has that line now that goes essentially from Canada down into central Mexico. You have perhaps even maritime issues if you go off the eastern coast into the Gulf of Mexico up there as well. Any kind of diversion in terms of using a different mode of transportation in terms of solving the problem?
That is a possibility, as using a different mode of transportation, but rail lines throughout Mexico. Rail operators such as Ferromex have been impacted by the migrant situation. You know, Ferromex, which is one of the largest railroads in Mexico, had to shut down, I believe it was like 60 trains that usually head north on a regular basis because they had so many migrants jumping on board, or trying to hitch a ride north to the U.S.-Mexico border. So rail is an option, but that is another mode of transportation that's being affected by this migrant surge of these migrants trying to seek asylum in the United States.
So, Olga, kind of the same question to you in terms of looking at different modes of transportation. If rail isn't necessarily one option that could possibly go to, you still have maritime to some extreme extent for any freight that's going east. But to that, the economic impact here is huge, because obviously the backup at the border is terribly bad for produce coming across into the United States.
Correct. And again, for some other type of products, yes, maybe a different mode of transportation would work. Produce is time sensitive, right? So we got to make sure that the lead times, if you're going to a rail or an ocean mode, are extended. So there is a lot at stake here when it comes to produce. The peak season for produce is upon us already. Nogales is also being affected by this immigration issues heavily. And they are the largest, if not the largest, one of the largest, if not the largest port for produce from Mexico to the U.S. So,
Noe, is the immigration issue not being helped at all by the fact that you're seeing, again, what we've talked about a lot is this nearshoring trend, where we're seeing lots of companies moving towards Mexico, Central America, trying to infuse jobs there as well. And obviously, we're still seeing a massive influx of immigration towards the United States.
Yeah, it's interesting that these migrants, the situation is happening now. It's unclear why so many migrants have surged at the border in these past few weeks. It could affect, as you mentioned, the nearshoring situation. It's definitely affecting the produce season in Arizona. I know I spoke to Arizona officials about a week and a half ago, and they were very upset, to say the least, of this situation. And, it's also officials in Santa Teresa and Arizona and Texas are calling for the return of those, U.S. customs agents that were reassigned to handle migrant duties. All of these border officials in Arizona, Texas, New Mexico want their customs agents back at those ports to help process, cargo. This migrant situation, apparently, from what I've read and heard, it's not clear if it'll end anytime soon. But the effect on trade it's having is really great. And these border officials, like I said, they want those customs agents back to really help process cargo to get trade moving again.
Olga, last question to you. As you look at this in terms of a timeline and how this is going to be affected, and looking for obviously a solution in the very near future, is there a timeline until something has to happen, or you may have who knows what could possibly happen at the border in terms of either overflows or just distrust, or also hopefully not even conflict at this point? But what are you looking at in terms of how much longer we can go like this before something has to happen?
Truly, I don't think much longer, Bill. Now, it is difficult to predict how long it's going to take. I honestly did not think it would take this long. It's already way past 2 weeks. But I guess there's other solutions, right? I mean, CBP needs to probably move people from the northern border could be a solution to support the southern border at this point in time on the immigration issues and allow the CBP officers to come back. In Texas particularly, I think there's a lot of pressure into the Texas governor to try and eliminate that additional filter of inspections that is slowing down considerably more than just the immigration issues, right? So there's just problems stacked over stacked, so it's difficult to say. But I do believe Texas could get some solution faster if the governor does remove the mandate for additional inspections by DPS.
Definitely tough for a Republican governor when your platform is also about securing the border there as well. So that's obviously a tough talking point to try and maneuver. Well, Noy and Olga, thanks so much for joining us for our roundtable, and obviously we'll keep a close eye on the situation.
Thank you, Bill.